Imagine you are carrying dinner home through a forest. Dinner is one annoyed rabbit. Your clothes are animal skin. Your shoes are also animal skin. Your house is a collection of sticks making a very optimistic triangle. Then it starts raining. Not for 10 minutes, not for one dramatic afternoon. It rains all week. So what did ancient humans actually do when the weather destroyed the schedule? The short answer is that they sheltered, protected whatever food and fire they had, did maintenance work, and waited for safer chances to go outside. A rainy camp probably became a damp little repair shop, classroom, kitchen, nursery, and social club, all squeezed around a fire that everyone was trying not to smother. But there was no single ancient human response. Ancient humans covers different species, climates, technologies, and millions of years. A group in tropical Africa had different problems from a group near an ice age glacier. Some knew how to make fire reliably. Others may have depended more heavily on preserving existing flames. Some had fitted clothing and sophisticated shelters. Others had much simpler equipment. Also, archaeology does not preserve anyone's rainy week calendar. We mostly find durable leftovers such as stone tools, bones, hearth remains, and sometimes rare pieces of fiber or hide. The wooden frames, baskets, ropes, blankets, and highly respected prehistoric leaf umbrellas usually rotted away. So the answer has to be reconstructed from technology, campsites, environmental evidence, and comparisons with mobile foraging societies. The first problem was shelter. Despite the familiar image, ancient people did not all live permanently in caves. Caves are useful, but inconveniently, nature did not place one beside every hunting ground. People also used rock overhangs and shelters made from branches, hides, brush, grass, or other local materials. A well-positioned shelter could block wind and direct rain away from bedding. A badly positioned shelter could collect water and deliver it directly onto one sleeping person, presumably the person who designed it. The floor mattered too. Lying directly on wet ground drains body heat. Bedding made from grasses, leaves, branches, or skins could create insulation, while drainage channels or a slightly raised sleeping area could keep water from flowing through camp. The goal was not modern indoor comfort. The goal was to be damp instead of dangerously wet. Then came the fire problem. Rain does not make fire impossible. It makes fire demanding. Dead wood beneath dense trees, inside hollow trunks, under rock ledges, or in the dry interior of fallen branches can remain usable. Larger wet pieces can be split to expose drier wood inside. Bark, resinous material, dry grass, fungus, or prepared tinder can help a small flame become a useful one. But if a group already had fire, the safest plan was often to keep it alive. That meant feeding it carefully, protecting embers, and carrying smoldering material when moving camp. Evidence for controlled fire reaches very deep into prehistory, although archaeologists still debate exactly when different human groups became able to create it whenever they wanted. Fire-making tools are especially difficult to identify because much of the equipment was perishable, and putting a fire inside a cave created a second weather system called smoke. A hearth needed ventilation. Research using Paleolithic cave dimensions shows that the cave opening, season, and position of the hearth can strongly affect where smoke collects. So a cave was not simply a stone apartment with free heating. Put the fire in the wrong place, and everyone had to choose between being cold near the entrance or warm inside a cloud of eye pain. If you enjoy good explanations held together by bad drawings, subscribe before the rain gets into those too. Once shelter and fire were stable, the next issue was food. Heavy rain could erase tracks, reduce visibility, swell rivers, make cliffs slippery, and change where animals moved. Hunting did not necessarily stop. In some environments, wet ground could make fresh tracks easier to see, and certain animals might gather in predictable sheltered places. But travel became riskier, especially if people were cold and carrying children, weapons, or the remains of the last rabbit. Foraging could continue close to camp. People might collect plants, shellfish, insects, small animals, or other foods depending on the season and location. Fishing could become better or worse as water levels changed. There was no universal rain menu. The real protection was planning before the storm. Dried meat, rendered fat, nuts, seeds, roots, and other stored foods could turn several dangerous expeditions into several boring meals. Storage was limited for mobile groups because everything eventually had to be carried, and carrying a week of food across rough ground is nature's way of making you reconsider possessions. Food could also be processed during the rain. Meat could be cut into smaller pieces, cooked, dried near a smoky fire, or shared before it spoiled. Nuts could be cracked, seeds could be ground, bones could be broken for marrow, hides could be scraped. These were not secondary activities. Food processing often required hours of repetitive work, which rain was generous enough to provide. Then the camp would enter maintenance mode. A stone tool was not just picked up from the ground in its final heroic shape. Toolmakers selected material, struck flakes, sharpened edges, replaced damaged points, and sometimes attached stone pieces to wooden shafts or handles. Archaeological wear and residue show that Paleolithic tools were used for butchery, woodworking, plant processing, hide work, and other jobs. Many of those tools could be made or repaired under shelter. A wet week might therefore involve resharpening cutting edges, straightening spear shafts near the fire, replacing bindings, preparing resin or glue, scraping hides, twisting fibers, fixing bags, and checking every object that had recently tried to fall apart. Clothing needed particular attention because wet clothing can shift from useful skin layer to heavy refrigerated towel. Hides had to be cleaned, softened, repaired, and dried without being burned or turned stiff. Later Paleolithic groups had awls and eyed bone needles capable of producing carefully fitted clothing. At the roughly 33,000-year-old Yana site in Siberia, archaeologists recovered a large collection of needles, needle fragments, cases, and awls, showing how substantial sewing technology could become. And clothing was only one part of the invisible technology that rarely survives. Cordage could make nets, traps, bags, bindings, handles, belts, and shelter ties. A stone point looks impressive in a museum, but without fiber holding it to a shaft, it is mainly a sharp rock with career ambitions. Rain would also create time for teaching. Complex skills do not transfer automatically through the blood because your parent once made an excellent spear. Someone has to show you where to strike a stone core, how tightly to twist fiber, which plants are safe, how to read tracks, and why the fire should not be moved to the smoky corner again. Children could watch, imitate, practice, and receive correction. Adults could compare methods or prepare younger group members for tasks they would later perform outside. This social learning was central to cumulative culture, the process by which useful knowledge survives beyond one person and can be improved across generations. There was probably plenty of ordinary social life too. People talked, rested, cared for children, treated injuries, groomed one another, negotiated conflicts, and shared information. They may have told stories, made music, played games, decorated objects, or performed rituals. We know later Paleolithic people produced ornaments, figurines, musical instruments, and cave art, but we cannot point to a particular rainy Tuesday and prove that someone invented a song because hunting was cancelled. Still, long periods together would have been ideal for exchanging knowledge. A story about an animal crossing might preserve hunting information. A tale about a dangerous river could teach geography. A joke about someone's disastrous shelter could become a technical building manual that survived because everyone enjoyed repeating the part where the roof collapsed. Of course, sheltering together had costs. Fuel disappeared quickly. Smoke irritated lungs and eyes. Wet hides smelled. Food scraps attracted scavengers. Waste had to be carried away. Tempers could shorten. If the shelter flooded, the group might have to move during the storm anyway. Stay inside sounds simple until inside contains 12 people, several wet skins, a crying child, and one suspiciously confident dog. So ancient humans probably did not treat rain as a total shutdown. They managed it in short decisions. Can someone gather fuel safely? Is the river rising? Are the children warm? Is there enough food to wait another day? Should the group move now or risk becoming trapped? That is the deeper answer. A week of rain did not suddenly create creativity, cooperation, or technology. It revealed why those abilities mattered. Humans survived bad weather by turning outdoor problems into indoor tasks. The failed hunt became spear repair. The soaked hide became sewing work. The dangerous journey became a lesson about the landscape. Time that could not be spent finding food was invested in becoming better at finding food later. The rain ruined the plan, but humans were already specialists in making another plan. So when ancient people sat under a rock ledge listening to water hammer the ground for the seventh day, they were not simply doing nothing. They were maintaining the small, fragile machine that kept them alive. The machine was the camp. Its parts were fire, tools, food, shelter, memory, and other people. Everything was wet. One person was definitely sitting in the smoke, and civilization was quietly being repaired.